Awesome. Well, we're super excited to talk about SBE Gold Certification today. Let's see if I can there we go. All right, so just to kind of go over our agenda for today, we're just going to do some brief introductions, and then we will turn it over to Debbie to talk about SBE certification, and then we'll open it up for Q&A. So thank you guys so much for joining us today, and we will get going. Just to kind of introduce our team, we have Philip Baird, myself, I'm Hannah Bunch, and Dave Pereira here on the call with us today. And we are so excited to introduce Debbie Taylor with us, talking about SBE certification. She's DECA's leadership specialist and also in charge of implementing student leadership programs for high school and college divisions. She has her master's in educational leadership from the University of West Florida. And before working with DECA, she was a teacher in Florida implementing project-based learning and technology. So with that, I will actually go ahead and turn it over to you, Debbie, to kind of lead us in our SBE Gold certification.
Yeah, so she's saying she can't unmute herself. Can you go to participants and see if you can unmute her as the host, Hannah?
There we go. It worked. So I guess I was having some issues with my video and my moving. So thank you very much. My name is Debbie and I work in the programs department. So kind of do all student programs, also kind of take care of challenges and campaigns and different items like that. But I do manage the SBE Gold Certification Program. So if you want to go to the next slide. So we do a gold chapter certification, and then there's a recertification. We also have a silver or bronze chapter certification. There is no recertification for the silver or bronze. All the guidelines can be found at deca.org/SBE. So the process for the chapter certification is the very first year that you do it, you would do the full gold certification, which will encompass 10 standards that you would have to address in a written project. And then the 4 following years, and this is meant to be in conjunction, so it's a 5-year total cycle. So the next 4 years, you would do a recertification. You would address 3 standards in a project, and those standards rotate every year. It's not the same 3 standards each year. So as I mentioned, it works on a 5-year cycle. Then on year 6, you would do the whole full gold chapter certification again, same cycle. So, you know, ideally, every 6 years, you're starting over again. So the standards for the full gold certification, we have financial analysis, operations, marketing information management, market planning, product service management, pricing, distribution, channel management, promotion, selling, and human resources. And then underneath each of those standards, we have some performance indicators that will also need to be addressed. So the level of certification that you get awarded, whether it's gold, silver, bronze, is dependent on how the standards were addressed and documented in the project that you submit. So for the 10 standards, they have the performance indicators, and there's a different number that you have to address for each standard. It's written in our guidelines. It's pretty easy to follow, but you know, some standards may have 4 performance indicators under them, and some may have 5 or 6. We actually just updated a few of our performance indicators for this year. If anybody had previously done it, we have made updates to financial analysis, operations, marketing information management, and human resources management for this year. The recertification standards for 2021-2022 are marketing information management, product service management, and human resources management. And then the competition topic. So for SBEs, they're kind of different for competition because you guys would do your project, submit your project, and then our judges evaluate your projects before ICDC. And then if you achieve that gold level certification, you'll get invites to ICDC, and that's where you do your competition. But you already know what your competition topic is because we've released those. This year it's human resources management. And the guidelines are that 1 to 3 SBE members, whoever your managers, however the chapter wants to do that, can attend the SBE Academy, but they do need to get the approval of their Chartered Association advisor first, but they can compete at ICDC. The submission site, which is on that website, deca.org/SBE, will open on December 1st, 2021, and all projects are due by January 10th, 2022 by 11:59 Eastern Time. As I mentioned, all certified chapters are recognized, and this would include silver, bronze, and gold on DECA Direct Online. Then the chapters that earn gold certification and recertification will be recognized at ICDC, and they have the possibility of being able to attend ICDC as well to compete. Now, I get a lot of questions actually about Spirit Box because it's a little bit different than running a school store. But we do have quite a few Spirit Boxes that have been gold certified for a number of years. So sometimes you have to explain your answers a little differently than maybe you were running a store. Why do you do something a little bit different? That kind of thing. But it's really important to be sure that you address all the standards and the performance indicators in your project. If you don't do something exactly the same, go ahead and explain why you do it different, because it's a Spirit Box and not a store, and so you may do things differently. But if you explain it enough so that the judge understands, or say what you may do in lieu of or differently because you have a Spirit Box. So as long as you have a good explanation in there of why you may do something different, usually you can get certified if you've addressed everything correctly. Some tips for an outstanding paper is, include photos and graphics when it's appropriate, maybe add some graphs and charts, and making sure that you organize those standards and performance indicators with headings and bullets and bold type so that it's easy for the judge to find. I kind of included here in this photo a few pictures of these are Spirit Box SBEs that have been previously submitted from last year. So they've all got gold certified. So it's definitely possible. Like I said, sometimes you just have to think outside the box on how you answer things, but you're still running a store. It's just maybe a little bit smaller store otherwise. But and then my contact information was on the slides, but you can always feel free to reach out to me. It's Debbie, DEBBIE @deca.org.
Awesome. Thank you.
Questions? Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Debbie. And that's a really good point regarding Spirit Boxes or the school store vending machines being different than a traditional brick and mortar store. And do you have an example of maybe a requirement that makes a lot more sense like a brick and mortar store that you might have to address a little bit more creatively for a Spirit Box? Oh no, she's muted again.
I was wondering if you saw that.
There we go. Oh, that was really strange. I don't know what's going on. Sometimes when I'm trying to think of like operations. So, we have store operations, but I've still found when I've reviewed these papers, we're talking about safety and health. Well, you still have to think about, you still have to follow the safety of, the machine, right? So there's still things like that they have to do. It may not be the same as a store, And a lot of it, the finances, it might be a little bit different because you don't have somebody at the register. So, you know, maybe somebody's not there collecting money, but you still have the process of, you know, collecting all that money and depositing all that money. So you still have, you're still going through those steps. You just might be doing it slightly differently. You know, I'm thinking of, you know, ordering from vendors and deciding what goes in your machine. Same concept as in a store. It's just a different scale of, you know, whether you're putting chips in there or I have read some of them that have retail in their spirit boxes as well, you know, so just deciding what t-shirt or whatever that they might be putting inside that spirit box.
So Clinton High School, do you guys, where are you guys at with certification? Is this something you're currently pursuing? I can't remember if you received it last year or if you're pursuing it for the first time this year.
We're pursuing it for the first time this year. And like where I think we're kind of hung up the most is our spirit box is an extension of our brick and mortar store. They're separate but the same because of the limitations we have on when we can be open in our brick and mortar store throughout the school day. Some of that stuff is changing, I guess, but like our product mix is the same for both, except that we have, I guess if you could call them fresh food items in our school store that obviously we can't put in the spirit box. Can't put slushies and fresh baked chocolate chip cookies in there. But like pretty much everything we sell in our school store, we sell in the spirit box. So that I think that's one of our hangups is it's like in deciding what to certify, for us, it's hard for us to make a total distinction between the two. And I'll let you guys talk because
yeah,
we're a really small school. So like we are now a 7 through 12 building, and I think our entire population is like 580 kids. So previously we were a 9-12 building with about 380 kids. So you know, it's a small school, so, and we have a limited space in our brick and mortar store. So the vending services that we offer in our district are an extension of what we do in the brick and mortar store. And so it's hard to distinguish them because we pool all the resources for both.
Yeah. So when you said that, I was wondering if maybe you could combine them into one, you know, so what's the name of your school store?
We call it the Cougar Cave.
So, I mean, I'm wondering if you could do the Cougar Cave, you know, / spirit box, you know, or something like that. And then you can use both of them to address it and maybe not making a decision. A lot of the SBEs that have brick and mortar and spirit boxes, they are different. Like one might be food, one might be retail, you know, so they're not exactly the same. So you couldn't do two separate ones, you know, one because they're the same operation, right? And you don't have a separate business for each of them. So you would kind of have to make that decision of which one, if you want to do just one. But I mean, I think it would be okay, you know, if you kind of combine the two, if you're running them in conjunction with each other.
Yeah, that was I think that makes things a whole lot clearer and easier. Because, I mean, honestly, we're really, really grateful to Philip for all of his guidance and helping us. Like adding vending to our school store blew things up almost overnight. And we've kind of been playing catch up since. And so like, I feel obligated and I want to certify our spirit box because I do believe, you know, that's one of the reasons why we're having the successes we're having in our school-based enterprise. But at the same time, it's been hard to distinguish because it is kind of all encompassing for us. And we refer to, like, our school store is the Cougar Cave, but we refer to our school store as the Cougar Cave Enterprise because it's, you know, a play on school-based enterprise. And that's what we refer to it when we're talking with our business office and our administrators, you know, and internally amongst our leadership team, it's the Cougar Cave Enterprise. So you think it would be okay to just certify that?
Right, especially if all the money goes into one pot, like then it's the same thing, right? So you could definitely, I would just, as you address things, if you're addressing something specific to the spirit box, you know, you might put the Cougar Cave Enterprise Spirit Box, we do something this way. And then in the Cougar Cave Enterprise store, we do something the other way, so that you can address how you do it differently, maybe in both of them. I think that would be an interesting way to do that as well.
Okay. I like that. You guys get that?
Yeah. And I think, adding a little color to that, I think thinking about Best Buy, which is really how we got the idea for Spirit Box. We saw a Best Buy vending machine 12 years ago at an airport selling iPads and charging cables and all that stuff. That's all still Best Buy. They just have different channels for their customers to be able to purchase from them. So this is a higher foot traffic area where, their cost to put an actual Best Buy in an airport would be astronomical, but they can afford this little footprint in this high traffic area. So it's just another channel, another place where their customers can go buy. Best Buy has an online presence. They'll set up pop-up shops for events too at certain places. So, I think thinking about it all as the Cougar Cave, that's your brand, that's your business. And the Spirit Box is just an automated retail channel that you guys have added to it.
Yeah, so I'll give you an example. There is a chapter in Minnesota. They have a store. They also have a little food truck, you want to say. It's not a food truck, but they have a mobile store that they take to town for events and stuff like that. But they still discuss both in their paper because it falls under the same thing. So that's the exact same thing. Yours is just a vending machine, and they happen to have a mobile store that they use to take, to fall festivals or whatever, and they sell stuff to the community. And they've been certified for many years. They put both together because the money for both of them are the same thing, same enterprise. So
that clarifies things for me a lot. I'm a relatively new DECA advisor, like old teacher, but new DECA advisor. So like in our DECA operations, I helped with it for years, but like it became my responsibility a couple years ago. And it was something that the previous advisor never talked about it. We never, thought about pursuing it. And so, once we started learning about, I attended a workshop about the SBE certification, and I was like, ooh, I want to do this. I want to do this for my kids. And so, but I've been flying blind. So that's great, because that makes things a little clearer to me, because the way I read the directions was that, you had to choose, what are you certifying?
Right. And a lot of times some chapters have a food operation and they have a retail operation. So, you have to make that distinction. But again, for me, the big thing is the pot of money. If all the pot of money is funneling to one place, then it is one operation.
Yeah, ours is kind of hard because we're kind of intertwined. We do both, we're doing a little bit of everything. So it's
right.
hard to make that kind of decision, I guess, of which one we're going to go for the most.
So are you talking retail or food?
Yeah.
So the big rule is if the bulk of your sales, whatever the bulk of your sales are. So in the guidelines, there's on the first page, it talks about it, but it's like a percentage of however much of your sales is, that's what you would certify in. So you guys might want to look at those again. I think it's on the first page of the full certification guidelines. I have to pull it up because I don't remember it off the top of my head. But it gives you some short little descriptions of whether you would go with the food or the retail for your operations.
Okay.
Hey, Debbie, would you mind talking a little bit about the individual certification? Because
sure.
What I was hearing was that the business is going strong, but maybe the focus is not on the process yet. And so maybe many of those students can take the test and pass it with a 70 and get that individual certification, which would help potentially into the SBE certification.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we have is a process where the advisor can log on and they can register their students to take the individual certification. It's an online test that's run through DLG, and there is a blueprint online of kind of the types of questions that you would see. And then the students have, it's basically a month to take the test, where the advisor would kind of pick in there where they would take it. There is a cost for this test because the way the certification is run, and there's just some administration costs. So there's a cost of $15 per student to get certified, but they need a 70% to pass the certification. A lot of them, the students use it as, in their school stores, they have all of their certifications hung up in there and stuff like that. So it's a newer program of the SBE. It's just something that hasn't been around as long as the chapter certification. So we're growing it, working with some, I believe, we were talking with maybe doing some stuff through NRF, but I don't know for sure, where we're at in that process of, adding some stuff. I know they have some certifications as well that they do that some advisors use, so going on that end and looking at some of that stuff. But our certification is all run through DLG and through membership, logging on through there.
Are you able to, is a school able to do both? Are you able to pursue chapter certification and then have your members also pursue individual?
Yep, absolutely. Lots of advisors, advisors kind of run it as they see fit. Some of them require their SBE managers to get the individual certification. I say require, but like that's something that they want them to do, is to get that certification for the SBE managers. As some of their classes, I guess it just depends on what particular class that they're teaching. They work with them, and then at the end of that class, they have some students that will take that certification in their class as well. So they're kind of separate entities, so they're not dependent on each other. So you can have individual certification without a chapter certification, or you can do both.
Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Are you able to, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was going to say, so with the certification process, obviously you're aiming for gold, but if you are aiming for gold and you get silver or bronze, the next year you do all 10 again, all 10 standards again?
Yeah, so if you, usually the judge will give you feedback on why you possibly got silver or bronze, and then usually the chapters will resubmit again, and you have a pretty good workout on your original paper, of things that you need to change and improve on and that kind of thing. So you would have to submit for the full gold again, and then once you earn that first year, then you don't have to do the full gold until that year 6. That was a good question, because that happens a lot of times with chapters, especially if they've never been certified in the SBE, and so they're just not really sure, how high to shoot, or where exactly, how much detail. I always say with those, they're like, you have 50 pages to play with. I think that's the max on the full. So you have plenty of time, as long as, you fully answer all of those standards and performance indicators. You probably, are looking pretty good. And then just the little nitpicky things of, headings and page numbers and all those little items as well. But referring back to those guidelines and making sure that you address all of those will set you definitely up in a good place.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure in our first go around, as much as I am certain these kids are capable of producing a gold standard certified school-based enterprise, we just in our own systems, we know some areas we're already deficient in, and one is our financials, and that's just because of a lot of the constraints we have within our school district, and again, that we've blown up a whole lot faster than we could handle. So trying to get the reins on tracking, and we're not there yet, but I think this is going to be a great opportunity to demonstrate, that we're closer than we think. That's right. Kind of what keep telling the kids is we're a whole lot closer to this than you think, and once we get it on paper, it'll be a lot easier to clean things up.
Right. And sometimes, I've had some chapters that they're not really allowed to do the financials, just that's the way their school district is, and so the school district does all the financials, so they have to always go to admin and sit down and say, yeah, we have this project we have to turn in, and we have to show, a balance sheet or some of that kind of stuff. So sometimes that's a little bit difficult, but a lot of times it is something you don't do. A good thing to do is address, what you're currently doing, but how you plan on changing to make it better. So at least the judge sees, oh, they've considered this and they're moving forward. That would always be a plus on your end.
Yeah, and I would reiterate that it's kind of a theme I've heard throughout this is, explain, even though it may seem black and white, just because it's not obvious to you that you're doing this as it's being asked, explain why and explain what you're going to do to try to achieve, improvement. And, a lot of these, a lot of the judges come from business backgrounds, and, that there's a ton of value in you guys. I was made aware of the first Spirit Box team that became gold certified probably 6 years ago. They didn't think they stood a chance because they're like, this doesn't make any sense for the Spirit Box and this doesn't. But I'll tell you what, we gave them what we knew and we told them what we were trying. And, sure enough, a couple months later, they came back and, hey, we got gold certified. So don't let that scare you. I think there's a lot of DECA there's a lot of Spirit Box teams that are also DECA that they kind of talk themselves out of pursuing certification. I think because they're a little bit scared that maybe they don't have what it takes. And I mean, you guys, like you said, Elisa, you guys are learning and implementing a lot more than you would even give yourself credit for. And once you start to document that, I think you see that's a great thing about certification too. You're putting together this documentation on how you operate your business. But yeah, I mean, I think, go for it, explain yourself, explain the why, and explain what you're doing to improve.
Yeah. I mean, if you give good explanations of why you don't do something a certain way, it goes a long way. Because, schools, states, they all have different kind of rules and regulations. And so sometimes it's hard for everybody to, fit into a nice little box of why they do things. I've had SBEs, right in there that their students aren't allowed to, touch the money and collect the money because that's a school policy. In our stuff, we want the students involved because we want them to run the business, but they had to have an adult in there to, when they were doing deposits and stuff like that, students weren't allowed to do it. But just, explaining that kind of stuff in there on why you do something a certain way, and then it makes sense. But maybe some changes that you could make in the future for sure of how you can improve your process will definitely be a good thing to do for that.
So how many schools, gosh, it's an interesting year to ask that coming off of 2020. How many schools pre-COVID were getting certified each year?
So we pretty much we cut it in half last year, basically. I think last year we were at like 248, and the previous year it had been just over 500. Basically, most of our food operations were not able to operate. We had a few that were, but the retail ones, a lot of them were able to adjust and innovate by, some of them told me they were thinking about an online store, and this just kind of pushed them that way. And so they started their online store. A lot of them were open for faculty members, for certain days of the week. So they were still operational, but it really did hurt a lot of SBEs just because, there's no students in the school, then it's hard for the SBE to be open. But a lot of them had to change in the fact that they couldn't have students in the store, but they could still be open. And so some of them did the online ordering. They could go to the website, they would order online, and then they could pick up their stuff in the office or something like that, because they weren't allowed to have students in the store. So a lot of them just kind of were very creative last year in order to stay operational. But for us, for last year, anybody who didn't certify, we're just not counting last year because it was just too hard. to hold that against anybody. So if you didn't certify last year, it's like in that overall 6-year process, we're just not counting last year. That just is, we take it away. So, your 4th year of recertification would be this year instead of last year, if that's where you fell.
Well, I think it's amazing that even 250 schools were certified last year. I mean, talk about having to pivot and work with the unforeseen circumstances. That's really cool. And Clinton, I'm excited you guys are pursuing it this year. Make sure you lean on us. And Debbie provided her email address here as well. But, the bottom line is, regardless of the outcome, you guys are taking a lot of real knowledge from this whole process. And that's why we do what we do at Spearbox. It's why we love partnering with DECA. And, we have a lot of teams that are just kind of on that borderline of, do we do this or do we not? And I feel like too many of them decide not to. And so I don't know if this is something Debbie, you've only been with DECA for just going on 2 years now, with one of those years being an anomaly, hopefully. But do you know of any like really cool success stories, like any DECA teams that ran their SBE or were gold certified and, now they're, doing something out there? They've created their own business that we might all be aware of, and maybe not, but I just know those stories exist, and I feel like those stories are good motivation for the teams that are on the fence.
Yeah, and that's not something that we track on our end, just because, you don't know 5 years down the line. That's probably something advisors probably know, but we don't know, that their former SBE manager, started their own business. But that's actually pretty interesting. And I think I might bring that up at ICDC during our SBE Academy, to get some feedback on that. But we currently do not have any information where we track that. It would, just if somebody had heard, hey, they were, ran a school store and now they're running their own business kind of thing. But I know we have a lot of former DECA members, that are entrepreneurs. So it would not surprise me at all.
Yeah. And, we addressed a study that we read a couple of years ago, talking about like one of the number one reasons why students drop out of high school is they feel like what they're doing at school doesn't apply to what they're going to do after school. And that's just what I love about having students run real businesses in the walls of this school, because I mean, these are what you're doing every day is going to be directly applicable, in most cases, assuming that you're wanting to pursue business. But even if not, even if you're going to school to be a doctor, you might have to deliver some pizzas every once in a while too. So knowing how to handle customer service and having dealt with money before and, that sort of thing it's going to be very valuable in those applications. So that's another statistic I'd be really interested in seeing, is like how students who are in DECA, what that dropout rate looks like versus students who aren't. And that could be cut up a lot of different ways, right? You're probably not going to join DECA if you aren't motivated in some way, shape, or form. So but at the same time, students who are in DECA, I have to feel like they feel that what they're doing is a little bit more relevant for post-high school. But anyway.
I know that we track some of that stuff in our impact report, and we're actually working on a current impact report. So when it's finalized, it would be good to see if they have any of that kind of information in there. But usually it tracks like how many have gone on to 4-year colleges, different things like that.
Sure. Yeah. Well, hey Clinton, do you guys have any other questions? And if you can't think of them right now, no pressure. We'll definitely continue to work with you guys, because we're gonna get gold. You guys are gonna get gold this year.
Well, I made a note here, Philip. I just wanted the boys to hear it from you directly. I'm gonna share your email with them. Like, just an interesting historical fact for you. Mason is Jordan's brother. So you remember from our first
Yeah,
group?
sure.
Because
Absolutely. Yeah.
your sister sat in on a monthly phone call with Philip. So he was super, super helpful with us getting our spirit box up and running. And she was part of that initial group. So Mason is a sibling, and we're already talking about how to recruit his little sister when the time comes, and she's up here. She doesn't have a choice, right? We got to carry the weight legacy on with that. But I'm going to share your email with them so that if they have questions or, you know, if they're looking for something, like Philip is, when we were putting together our spirit box and getting things off the ground, a lot of great ideas that we implemented, you know, but we bounced off of him, and he gave us really great feedback. And he was super, super helpful with the presentation your sister and that group put together to give to the business office. So like they ran it for him first. So I just, like, I know you'll answer their emails, but I want them to know that, you know, you're not.
Absolutely.
Oh my God, kids are bugging me.
Absolutely. No, I mean, we love that. Some of our most successful Spirit Box teams, it's when the student managers of the Spirit Box are emailing us or calling us like weekly. And it's just, hey, we have this idea. Do you know of any other schools that have tried it? Or, you know, sharing successes with us and passing those on to us so we can share it via our monthly newsletters to the rest of the Spirit Box teams. But yeah, I mean, that's the one rule we have at Spirit Box is we're not going to hold your hand unless you ask us to hold your hand, but you got to also manage us, you know, like you can't be like, hey, we need help once a week. And then, you know, you're not around when we call, or, you know, you don't stay in touch with us via email, but we pick up the phone when you call and we respond to emails. You know, we try to respond within the day, and we're here to support you guys as much as you want. So don't hesitate to reach out, and let's get a call scheduled or email. I mean, I'll give you my mobile number, and if I'm on vacation, you guys have a question, you can call me.
Okay. I know that's something we didn't really get back up and running after COVID was our monthly calls. And quite honestly, the best time to do that would be during our entrepreneurism class when most of the kids who are on the Spirit Box team are present. But it's also,
that's our restock time.
yes, like that class, yeah. we are stocking our vending machines every single day now. And it takes awesome. The entire class period because it gets picked over. Like if we have our modified block, so on our 2 block days, the first block day we don't meet as a class, and the Spirit Box, both vending machines are empty for the next day, and there's just very little left in them. So I mean, it takes, and our regular class period is only 43 minutes, so it takes all of the time that we have to stay stocked, which is a beautiful problem to have, right?
It is. You know, it's there are such things as growing pains, and you guys mentioned it in not just inventory, you know, but other areas of your operations. You know, you guys are going through growing pains right now, and it's awesome. It's like, you know, to be busy and even slightly overwhelmed is way better than having nothing to do and listening to crickets, you know, like not quite sure where you know, how you're going to make payroll the next time around or how you're going to fund the next, you know, round of inventory. That's a lot more stressful than being stressed with business and figuring out how to, but it is a stress, and it's, you know, it is real. So people say it's a good problem and laugh it off, but it's a challenge to figure that stuff out. But, you know,
go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, you know, we're here to help you. I think that's where a lot of entrepreneurs struggle, is like reaching out to people for help and delegating. You know, I think just the first thing, as soon as you realize you don't know all the answers, and you can kind of humble yourself a bit and realize, actually, I don't know most of the answers, but what resources do I have access to? Like, which parent on the DECA staffs, or, you know, the DECA chapters, which parent is an accountant? And maybe we could, you know, pick their brain for a day about putting together a profit loss statement template, or, you know, whose parent has an understanding of, you know, distribution, and maybe where we can go find better pricing for better products and things like that. You know, just getting creative about accessing resources and not trying to come up with the answers yourselves, because you'll kill yourselves and you'll end up going down. I mean, that's why a lot of businesses go down. Either they think they know the answers, or they don't have the confidence in reaching out to other people to ask for help.
Yep. what I was going to say is this has been the perfect ending to what has been a perfect day. We actually spent our morning at Badger High School, and I believe they were ICDC champs in 2019 for their school-based enterprise certification. Today was kind of all about, you know, trying to feel more confident in what we're doing. I think the leadership it was also a team building day. But we spent the day at Badger High School seeing their school store, and I just wanted to tell you there may be a referral for a spirit box in the future. Badger High School principal walked in during our kids giving their presentation about what we're doing in our school store so they could kind of compare stories, and I think they kind of partnered up with counterparts at Badger. We're going to stay in communication with them going forward to kind of talk about the differences, because Badger High School in Lake Geneva is about, what would you say, 4 times the size we are. Yeah, it's 5 times. I think they have 1,300 kids. We have 500. So, and they're a 912 building. And apparently the principal walked in while they were talking about our spirit box, and she was very impressed and started tapping me on the shoulder, asking me questions and how did you get one and all this other stuff, because they have parents who want to buy spiritware at home games, but the school store isn't always open to sell it. So she was looking for a way, because they weren't happy with online store stuff. It was, you know, to be able to do the cash and carry kind of thing. And so it's just like, I know how I can hook you up. So,
I know a guy.
I know a guy. So she was like, what I told her, she's very interested. So I hope that pans out. But
yeah, thank you. And we
to
track. We log in every day, and we're able to see all the spirit box activity across the country, and we always see Clinton edging its way up and growing and edging its way up and making the top 10 list. And
we fell out last month.
Well, you guys have a third of the enrollment that the average high school has, and we work with schools that have 2,000 students and do half the sales you guys do. And we tell teams this all the time. A spirit box operation or a school store operation is only as good as the team running it. It doesn't matter how good your playbook is. It doesn't matter, it's only as good as the team running it. So hats off to you guys. And I look forward to working more closely with you now that we've met. And then also we want to make ourselves available as you're putting together your SBE stuff. Feel free to if you guys want to do a presentation to us or share sections of it with us. Let us know where you're struggling. Again, you have to take the initiative to do it. But I can tell you, Hannah and I, anytime we get an email from a Spirit Box team asking for help with something, we're like fighting over who gets to help them, who gets to reach out to them and work with them. So
awesome. One of the things we're going to try to do before state is present to our school board. So it would be kind of good to run it by you first, kind of like we did our presentation to our business office. That'd be awesome.
You bet. Yeah, thank you guys so much. And Debbie, I know you are setting up for
yeah.
Yeah. Does that start tomorrow?
Yeah, tomorrow night is the opening session. So we're getting all the stuff ready to go tonight. So
awesome.
Thank you so much for taking the time out of that and joining us here. I think this has not only been valuable for Clinton, but it's also going to be really valuable for the schools that watch it after the fact. So thank you so much, and good luck with your show, and I'm sure we'll be in touch.
Oh yeah, thank you. And yeah, anybody has specific questions about SBE certification, feel free to send them my way, and I can definitely answer those. So
thank you. It was very helpful. Very helpful.
Yeah, no, for sure. And like I said, I think your best bet is combining those two and putting them together if they're all run under that one business.
Sweet.
Awesome. Well, everybody have a great evening.
You too.
Right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, see you guys.
Bye.